Hey Cake Chums, and welcome back to another video. First of all, let me wish you a very happy Valentine's Day, however you are deciding to spend it. And if you don't have any plans, don't forget you can always go back and check out last week's video where Natalie Porter showed me how to make a beautiful Valentine's rose out of sugar. In fact, you can still see mine right behind me just there in a vase, and I did have another go at dusting it once it had dried fully. But that's not why we're here this week. This week I had a very exciting delivery that I cannot wait to share with you all, and that is this. Now, if you watched the latest season of the Great British Bake Off in kind of summer 2020, you will have seen at the end of the final episode that they launched their own subscription box service. Naturally, we were going to have to try this out for ourselves, and so I put my order in. I think it's been since November. But anyway, it finally arrived last week, so in this week's video we are going to be having a go at the very first The Bake Off box. Let's get to the video. So as I say, the Bake Off box was launched at the end of the last series of the Great British Bake Off, and essentially it should contain everything you need to make a signature bake or cake from the series every month. Now in this first one, it's the recipe to make the signature chocolate cake, which if you watch the Great British Bake Off, you will know that in the opening credits every episode they have that chocolate cake with the raspberries on top, with one missing in the corner, which is really irritating, but never mind. So I haven't had a look in the box yet because I wanted to do it on camera, but they very conveniently did send out an email telling you everything that you need to add to what's in the box so that you can make the cake, because of course perishables can't be put in a box and sent through the post because they wouldn't last. But anyway, I think let's have a look, see what's inside, and then we might even have a go at baking this on camera as well. So, oh my word. Okay, so inside, so in the top we have got a Tom Hovey illustration of what the finished cake should look like, which looks like that. We have got some information about where they sourced the ingredients from, and there's also a 10% off discount code in here for their bakeware shop. And then there's this little kind of packet of information which contains a checklist of what should be in the box. It says plain flour, baking powder and bicarbonate of soda, caster sugar, cocoa powder and 200 grams of dark chocolate chips. And then all of the additional ingredients are on the back. What I like about this, oh, I've got two of those apparently. What I like about this is essentially you can then make the recipe again and again, and that was one thing I was wondering, whether it would make it clear exactly what you need so that you can make it again. We also then have the full instructions, including photographs for how to bake the cake, how to make the ganache, and how to decorate. So we'll keep those safe. And then in the box itself, it's all wrapped up in this nice paper, stuck with a sticker. And then we have got, first of all, the ingredients. So there is a packet of caster sugar, and I'm liking that this is recyclable packaging. It looks like everything here can be recycled, so that's great. So we've got caster sugar, cocoa powder, flour, baking powder and bicarbonate of soda all combined. And then our dark chocolate chips. Each box also contains an item of bakeware as well, and the first one contains a Bake Off branded cake stand. I don't know if you can see that on the top there we have got the Bake Off branding. And this is actually apparently made from bamboo. So it's not ceramic, it is bamboo. It's quite nice, quite like that, love the colour, and you guys know I do love a cake stand. I think that's everything that's in the box, so we'll get rid of that. Now each month the subscription box costs £19.99. So for that you are essentially getting your item of bakeware, which in this case it was the cake stand, and then you've got your dry ingredients, so the sugar, the flour, the chocolate and the cocoa powder. Now I think when it comes to stands, I've never really come across bamboo cake stands before, so I don't know how they are usually priced. I mean, it looks very nice, as I say. I am noticing I've got a little bit of an imperfection on this corner here. I don't know if you can quite make that out on camera, but there is a bit of almost like a scratch or a scrape where it's been bashed. But other than that, as I say, I love the colour, and it's a fairly kind of typical cake stand shape. But bearing in mind that ceramic cake stands can run as high as up to about £100, £20 essentially for, you know, some dry ingredients and a cake stand seems really reasonable. I love that you get the Tom Hovey illustration. Those of you who watch Bake Off regularly will know that he has been illustrating all of the Baker's Bakes for the entire run of the Great British Bake Off. So I can imagine that if you were to subscribe to the box every single month, you could get quite a nice collection going of Tom Hovey artwork. It does also seem that quite a lot of thought has been put into how the box is presented. As I say, I do love that all of the packaging is recyclable, and it also tells you exactly where those ingredients have come from. So for example, the flour was milled in Essex, and it does say on the ingredients supplier's card here that the flour came from Marriages, which is a family-run flour mill based in Chelmsford in Essex. Now, of course, I am going to have a go at baking the Great British Bake Off signature chocolate cake, and I did a brief poll on my Instagram stories asking if you guys would like me to do that on camera, and at the time of filming right now, the answer is a resounding yes. So I think I'm going to adjust some camera angles, assemble those other ingredients that we need, and let's do some baking. Okay, so off camera I have just been and assembled the rest of the ingredients, including salt, whole milk, vegetable oil, 2 medium eggs, butter, double cream, and raspberries. Love raspberries. And then it also said I needed greaseproof paper, 2 8" /20cm cake tins. Haven't got those. 2 8" tins, and in the interest of science we're going to do one of my favourite PME seamless tins, and we're going to do one bog standard supermarket tin. I'm sure it won't make a difference, but why not? Bowls, sieve, whisk, cooling racks. We have everything we need. Shall we bake a cake? Okay. It's fine, we're fine. Number 1, preheat the oven. I didn't do that. Step number 1, preheat the oven, tick, and grease 2 cake tins. Check. What's next? Sift the plain flour, bicarbonate of soda, and baking powder. The sugar, cocoa powder. Oh my word, this is going to be messy. And the salt into a mixing bowl and then set aside. Done. Hands up who's already regretting not wearing an apron, but please note I am wearing real trousers, not tracksuit trousers or pyjama bottoms for the first time in I don't know how long. Okay, separate mixing bowl. Milk, oil, warm water. Now you'll notice warm water was not mentioned on here, but it was mentioned in here. They're being wily with us. Okay, mixing bowl, milk, oil, warm water. Okay, In a separate bowl, whisk together the milk, oil and warm water, then lightly beat in the eggs. So we mix this first. Yes, you'll notice by the way I'm not doing this with a stand mixer purely because it's not with a stand mixer in the instructions, so I figured I'll do what I'm told. That's the first time for everything. Right, 2 medium eggs. Now, what I will say is based on my limited experience of like box mix cakes, this process seems very similar so far. Other than the fact that those dry ingredients were separate, essentially it does kind of feel like making a box mix cake, and I wonder if all those dry ingredients could have been in a packet together. I wonder if they're kept separate so it feels a bit more like you're baking from scratch rather than just essentially a box mix cake. Okay, then it says 1/3 at a time, add the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients, mixing well between each addition, make sure the mixture is smooth with no pockets of flour. So, maybe if I draw like a little, no idea, I'm just going to do like a couple of big spoonfuls at a time. Just talk amongst yourselves. Okay, it's starting to come together now. It's looking lovely and thick and chocolatey. Okay, I'm going to switch very quickly from the whisk to just one of these plastic spatulas just to go around the edge, make sure there's no dry ingredients lurking. And then back to my whisk for a final mix. So hopefully you can see what we've ended up with there. It does look very liquid. So I am a bit worried about my loose bottom cake tin, whether we could have some drippage, but we will see. I know that they do sell 8-inch cake tins actually in the Bake Off Box store. What was that called? The Bake Off Box bakeware shop, which you do get 10% off with your little code that is in this first box. Okay, and then we're going to divide the mixture equally between the 2 sponge tins, baking for 30 to 35 minutes. Is it possible to make any more mess than I just did? If you want these to be really accurate, you could of course weigh them, but when have we known me to be really accurate? So these are going to go into the oven for about 35 minutes, but of course I'm not going to make you guys wait for that, so 35 minutes later, I should say, and there are my 2 cakes. Now I baked them on the same shelf of the oven, and I think as a result I've ended up with a quite uneven rise, but they have definitely risen really well, albeit one is just a little bit lopsided, shall we say. Feel nice and soft and spongy, so I'm really happy with that. And so the next thing to do is to turn them out onto some cooling racks and cool them upside down. So there's my topsy-turvy one, and there's my other one. Now before we do anything more with the cakes, we do need to leave those to cool down completely, but in the meantime we are going to make our ganache. Now the ganache recipe we're using involves heating up our cream on the hob until it's just boiling, and then we're going to pour it over our chocolate chips and some butter, and then we're just waiting for this cream to come to the boil. Confession time, I did actually boil this just now and then realised that I was a bit premature with the older cake out the oven. Set a timer, so might be a bit chunky. We could start again, but again, no. So we're literally just waiting for some bubbles to start popping, and then it will be time to pour the cream over the chocolate, and then we're going to leave it for 1 minute before we start stirring. That looks good to me. Vaguely chunky cream gets poured over chocolate. Set timer for 1 minute. Okay, 1 minute. So then it says stir with a wooden spoon until smooth and glossy. Hopefully you can see that that hot cream has started to melt that chocolate. And if you're not tempering chocolate, a glass bowl is actually a good shout because the glass itself will get warm as well and help that heat kind of spread out amongst the whole mixture. If you're trying to temper chocolate, the fact that the bowl retains heat can actually be a problem. So it's good to know what types of materials are good for different types of tasks in the kitchen. Okay, so if you now look at it, you can see that all those ingredients have come together. We've got this lovely shiny ganache going on here. And then we just essentially need to leave this to set until it's ready to use, which will take hopefully somewhere in the region of about 20 to 30 minutes. The guide says 20, so again I'm going to set a timer, but this time I'm going to walk away and I'll see you in a bit. Although to be fair, I don't know if my cakes would be cool in 20 minutes. Maybe we'll leave it to a little bit longer, but anyway, for you guys it will be seconds, so in a bit. Okay, so it's actually been a couple of hours. I've had a nap, feeling very well rested, if a little groggy, and it is now time to assemble our cake. So they're nice and cool, the ganache is set up, it's actually quite thick, but it's quite cold in here, so that's probably why. And we're going to build this directly onto the stand. Now, good tip, if you want to decorate a cake straight onto a stand like this, obviously it's not really practical to put it on a turntable because it's really tall. However, if you use a Lazy Susan, obviously it's much lower down to the worktop and you can build your cake straight onto your stand. So, I think we're going to start with the wonky one. We'll put that on the bottom. We'll try and even it out slightly with the ganache. I don't know if we'll have enough ganache to even it out as much as it needs, but it's fine. It's just an at-home cake. And I'm going to be using a palette knife to fill and cover and decorate the cake. It suggests in the guide recipe thing that you can use a palette knife or the back of a normal spoon. And we're just going to start by spreading a reasonably generous layer. In fact, it tells you how much. How much does it say? About 4 tablespoons. Okay, and then we're just going to kind of spread this around. That's not going to go very far at all. Maybe a few more than 4. But what we want to do, because these cakes have domed, which is quite common for a chocolate cake, particularly one baked at this sort of temperature, we want to level this top off. And to do that, we're going to kind of build up that ganache towards the edges. It would be easier actually to do this by piping, but again, we are following the recipe, and the recipe does say to use a palette knife. And we're going to flip this one upside down and pop it on top. My goodness, that's such a gap between the two. I honestly don't know if we're going to have enough ganache to fill that gap, as well as cover the whole cake. But it's fine, it's going to be fine. Okay, so I think we've got the whole thing covered. So next what it wants me to do is kind of do swirls in the ganache to create some texture. What sort of swirls are we talking? Really random. Okay. This is literally my least favourite type of decorating because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and so random and kind of not uniform is not really my comfort zone at all. Okay, I'm going to stop there, and then what I'm going to do is just grab cloth and just go around the outside as close to the cake as I can, just try and neaten up the stand slightly. And then it's time for raspberries. So we start in the middle, And again, if you watch Bake Off and you know this cake from the credits, you'll know that it always has one missing raspberry at the edge. So now we make a decision. Do we leave one off to be accurate, or do we satisfy that inner screaming voice that I have every time I watch the show and get rid of the hole? It's kind of bothering me that these raspberries aren't all identical. I feel like the ones in the images in the decorating guide, they've spent ages trying to find raspberries that all look the same. And there we go. I think that's the last step. Arrange the raspberries on top, leave to set for 30 minutes before serving if you can wait that long. And so essentially that is what we were aiming for, and that is what we have created. Okay, well what do you think, guys? How'd it do? Definitely think that my raspberries are not as photogenic as theirs. My ganache is also not quite so shiny. But anyway, we'll get into all of that. Let me have a tidy up, and then we will have a sit down, we'll have a look, we'll have a taste, and we'll see what we think. Give me 2 secs. Okay, so I've had a bit of a tidy up, and I got the blue gingham altar out, because obviously if we're doing Bake Off, we have to have a blue gingham altar. And I've tried to do a bit of a photo shoot with the cake. It still doesn't look as good as the official images, but it's a chocolate cake with raspberries on. I don't really know what else I can do to pretty it up, but there it is. There is my signature chocolate cake from the very first Bake Off box. I guess all that remains is to have a little taste. So, I have got a knife, a plate and a cake fork, and we are going to cut straight into this. I think we're going to go wedge style, and we'll have a look. Now I did say to leave it for about half an hour, and I have not done that. It's been about 10 minutes if I'm honest, but never mind. Here we go. Splat. So I don't know how well you can see, there is like an inside shot of what the cake looks like, just probably dark to be honest. And there is what the inside of a slice looks like. So hopefully you could see that it looks pretty deliciously moist. Lots and lots of that ganache filling, particularly towards the edges, I wonder why. But obviously the last thing that remains is to give it a taste. I'm going to be honest with you, that's a pretty good chocolate cake. As I mentioned earlier, it is really moist. That ganache is, well, you can't go wrong with ganache, can you? So ganache, yum. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of raspberries with chocolate. I think I prefer this maybe with some cherries rather than raspberries, but that is definitely a personal preference. And of course you do get the option of choosing which fruit you put on top, because you buy the fruit yourself. When it comes to the Bake Off box, just a reminder that in there we had the cake stand, which is made from bamboo, not ceramic, remember. The dry ingredients including flour, which also contained baking powder and bicarbonate of soda. We had the sugar, we had the cocoa powder, and then we had the chocolate drops, chocolate chips, whatever you want to call them. Callets, chocolate buttons, essentially. I have to say, I am pleasantly surprised. When I saw that it was going to be £20, I was expecting it to be quite cheap and nasty. And although the cake stand isn't ceramic, it's obviously strong enough to hold up this cake with no problems. I don't think I'd put anything heavier on it though, so maybe no 2-tier cakes with like sugar paste decorations. But it absolutely does do the job. I'm a bit disappointed that mine had a couple of imperfections, because particularly since I've put the chocolate ganache on and then wiped it off again, that has caught in those imperfections. I'll see if I can pop up a close-up if I remember to take one. But yes, in the box, obviously it was beautifully packaged. Everything arrived with no problems. You've got that lovely illustration, which I think could become a collectible if you do decide to continue with these. And obviously everything was really clear, simple and easy to understand. When it comes to the recipe, I think it's a lovely touch that you also get given all of the quantities of the ingredients that you got in the box, so that you could essentially make this cake again and again and again, just using ingredients that you already have or that you've bought specially. It's not like you can only bake it one time with the box. So I thought that was a lovely touch. But yeah, I don't really have anything negative to say about it, other than, as I say, my stand was a little bit battered. I do think I've had fun. It's a different chocolate cake recipe that I haven't tried before, that I can now put in my back pocket. I've got a new cake stand. I had the fun and excitement of opening the box, and all of that for only £19.99. So I think if you are a fan of the Great British Bake Off and you're a fan of baking, particularly someone who's maybe new to baking, so doesn't have that big arsenal of recipes already, this could be a really fun way to kind of expand your repertoire of bakes whilst having fun at the same time and celebrating your favourite TV show. If I was going to be a tiny bit negative, while I thought it was a nice touch that they sent through the list of ingredients that you needed to add to the box to bake this cake, it also kind of took away the excitement and the mystery about what you were going to find in the box. You very much knew what was coming, and in fact they have already put up all the information about what is in the next box, which will be coming out next month, and we already know what's in it. So essentially the only kind of excitement you're going to get is actually from the baking, which is fine, but I know quite often subscription boxes, part of the excitement is just receiving the box and finding out what's inside. But if that doesn't bother you, then absolutely I would recommend checking out the Bake Off box from the Great British Bake Off team. I will put the link down in the video description where you can go and find out more. Obviously you've missed February's box. I'm not too sure what the deadline is for March's box, but of course you can then either take out a 1 month, 3 month, or rolling. I'm not sure what the subscriptions are, but I'll put the link to the website so you can go and check it out for yourself. And yeah, thank you for joining me on my Bake Off box adventure. I do hope you enjoyed checking out the first ever The Bake Off box from the Great British Bake Off, and if you did, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up down below. If you'd like to see more videos like this from me, then you can of course hit the big red subscribe button before you go, and why not ring the bell if you would like to get a notification every time I upload a new video. I've got quite an exciting one coming up next week that I know a number of you have been looking forward to, so do keep an eye out for it at the same time next week on Sunday. But until then, stay safe, take care, and I'll see you guys soon. Happy caking. Bye.